Hey, Beastista here, and this is week 4 of the VDL. If you look right now at the far left, this is my division, and I have started off quite badly. I'm currently 0-3 and 5th in my division. I have had a lot of close matches, but I definitely have had a little bit of bad luck and a little bit of 50-50s or misplays that kind of led me to a bad start, but I felt like I was competitive in all those matches so far. Some bright side of this week is that I'm playing against the Middle Village P-Dubs, which is the other 0-3 team in my division, and so hopefully I can have the opportunity to beat them and get my first win of the season. So if you look here, this is our matchup, and I'm going to first start by looking at my opponent's team. And what we can see is on their side, this is kind of the Pokemon we have, that the biggest thing that's scary is Zapdos. So Zapdos is a Pokemon that is flying, which has very good coverage into my team, but also has fire and rock coverage. So it has all three of the bug weaknesses together. In addition to that, it also doesn't have an electric weakness, which means that Vikavolt and Galvantula, which are some good flying Pokemon, or good Pokemon to deal with flying Pokemon normally, can't really do particularly well into Zapdos. So Zapdos is definitely one of the more concerning things I'm expecting. In addition, Incineroar is the other thing that in particular scares me. Its fire damage is very good into my team. In addition to that, its Intimidate can be really annoying because my only reasonable answer to deal with Zapdos this week is going to be Crustle. And Crustle at -1 attack does not do much because even without the -1 attack, it doesn't have the best attack stat at 102. So those are my two big Pokemon that I'm concerned with. Some other lesser Pokemon that I'm expecting to see, but I'm not super concerned with, but can be annoying, is Fungus, because it has the ability to redirect damage, or redirect attacks, and also can put my Pokemon to sleep. And the other one that other two, I guess, two or three I would expect a little bit is Nidoking. Nidoking with a Choice Scarf can outspeed my entire team, which can be very concerning. And it also gets Rock Slide, Fire Punch. And so Rock Slide and Fire Punch, that combination does super effective damage to everything on my team. And and it can be fast enough if you give it a Choice Scarf. Other than that, Gyarados can be a little bit annoying because it has flying coverage and can intimidate, but it's not the most concerning. And then Latias can be a little bit concerning since it's faster than a lot of my team and also has fire coverage. But that one's not as concerning because I have a lot of ways to kill it because of all the stab, super effective damage because of my bug team. So when we look at my side now, some of the noteworthy things are Pheromosa and Ribombee are faster than my opponent's entire team. In addition to that, Durant, Galvantula, Scyther are faster than Zapdos, and every other Pokemon slower than Zapdos on their team. And so I have these Pokemon, five Pokemon that can be faster than almost everything on their team. Other than that, if you look at their team, they have exactly one Pokemon that resists Rock, and that's Nidoking, which means that Crustle will be very good in this matchup. Other than that, despite the fact that I have they don't have a lot of good slow Pokemon, my Trick Room component does not seem particularly well because Escavalier doesn't seem to match up favorably against Incineroar and doesn't honestly do much good damage into Zapdos. And Vikavolt does not match up well enough against Zapdos for me to be confident with bringing it. So with that, we can look at my team I brought. So we went with White Herb Crustle in order to negate Intimidates from Incineroar. And we gave Rock Wrecker on Crustle. The reason why we got Rock Wrecker instead of something like Rock Slide is because Rock Wrecker, when Dynamaxed, one-shots Incineroar guaranteed, where Rock Slide is a roll. In addition, if we give something like Helping Hand to Rock Wrecker, it also is a guaranteed one-shot onto Zapdos, in which Max Rockball off of a Rock Slide would not. Other than that, I decided to give it Weak Armor. This lets something like a Choice Scarf physical attacker, if it hits it, I can outspeed that the next turn. Next we go to Durant. This is an Expert Belt Swarm. I'm running Swarm because I'm not expecting to Dynamax it most times. We get in First Impression, so it can one-shot a non-Dynamax Latias, even though it's not faster than that. Other than that, we just get some coverage. From the other one, our next Pokemon is Ribombee. Ribombee is really relevant this week. Its Helping Hand helps with some damage rolls on the Crustle. Speed Swap is used to give Crustle speed. We get Psychic to coverage for Nidoking and Fungus, and then Moonblast hits everything else pretty well. The ability on Ribombee was a little bit tricky this week. I was debating between Shield Dust, which prevents it from being flinched by a Fake Out, and Aroma Veil, which is its other ability, which prevents it and its allied Pokemon from going to sleep, which would be relevant against Spore on my opponent's Pokemon, or from my opponent's Fungus. But I decided with Shield Dust because I'm more concerned with the Incineroar specifically. From here, we did Assault Vest on the Vikavolt. I didn't really expect to bring this. I had this here specifically in case my opponent has maybe like a Gyarados that's concerning or something like that I didn't expect. And it's more just there as a just in case. We get choice specs on Pheromosa with Icy Wind, Ice Beam, Electro Web, and Focus Blast. Ice and electric coverage, one of those two, the combination of those two hit everything for at least neutral, and then Focus Splash is specifically for Incineroar. Other than that, it's mainly there just to get some damage or maybe take a max attack. Otherwise, it's not going to too much, but it does some stuff. And then Galvantula is another Sweet Swap Pokemon that also is mainly there for speed control. Like I said, Zapdos at +1 speed is really concerning for my team. So if I can get String Shot or Electro Web, I can make sure that their team won't outspeed me. And that's basically my team. Here we are for match 1. So my main lead options were Galvantula, Pheromosa, or Crustle, Ribombee, and I wasn't sure what the best one is. Pheromosa, Galvantula is better against Fungus, and Ribombee, Crustle is better against something like Incineroar or Zapdos. And so that's kind of where my main options were. So I decided to go with Galvantula, Pheromosa specifically for the Fungus lead. So looking at their team, the only Pokemon that surprised me are Sylveon and Chansey. I didn't really expect Chansey, but Chansey is a Pokemon that if it's in the back, it can always be relevant. And then Sylveon can get Mystical Fire, and I don't have a lot of resistance to Fairy, but I was very surprised on Sylveon specifically. But the other ones are exactly as expected, and let's start. Okay, so my opponent led off with Latias and Incineroar, which isn't too surprising. I think it's a reasonable lead, and my expectation is that Latias is going to go for Tailwind, and Incineroar is probably going to fake out something. Right now the big debate is, should I Dynamax Pheromosa in the attempts to get a Max Hellstorm to kill Latias to prevent Tailwind? I decided against that because it seemed a little bit greedy, so I'm like, okay, maybe they won't go for a fake out, and I'll just kill him with an Ice Beam and Struggle Bug at the beginning. So they end up not going for a fake out, which ended up being really relevant, and I definitely was expecting this Ice Beam plus Struggle Bug to kill the Latias. The weakness policy on Latias was definitely surprising. I was expecting Latias to be more of a support Pokemon rather than a Dynamax threat, and that's definitely noteworthy for Game 2. and we just barely miss the Latias KO. It's really sad, and this definitely gives them a huge advantage because they're getting Tailwind up. And then they get the taunt off into the Galvantula, which I think is a strange decision. I definitely was expecting a Flare Blitz because it definitely could kill either of my Pokemon, or at least bring Galvantula down to Sash. So from here, I decided to just or I was debating between Struggle Bug. I was like, I should do Struggle Bug to lower Latias's special attack, and then I decided that was a bad decision because I can kill Latias with an Electro-Web, and this can slow down Incineroar for later in the thing. And then I just decided to do Ice Beam because I'm stuck with Choice Scarf. Pheromosa dies to the Mystic Fire, which is unsurprising. Pheromosa pretty much I expect to die from any hit. And Electro hits with both, which it should guarantee because I have Compound Eye on my Galvantula, and we killed the Latias. So right now, I'm feeling okay. It's a little bit sad because now their Pokemon have the speed advantage, which is definitely noteworthy. However, one of the nice things that we see here is after, the Flare Blitz gets me down to my Focus Sash, is that Galvantula is still faster than Incineroar, even in Trick Room. Even in Tailwind. So from here, I'm debating between Durant and Crustle. I decided Crustle because Durant is really bad into Incineroar if I can't kill it. So I feel like maybe I should have brought in Durant. It definitely would be better against the Incineroar, but it's also worse if they bring in Zapdos, because Zapdos can one-shot and outspeed my Durant. So from here, they brought in Sylveon, which is interesting. I honestly was unsure what the Sylveon might have. I didn't really expect it, so I didn't prepare too much. So I'm like, I don't know what Sylveon has in their move pool. And so I think to stall Tailwinds, I probably should have Electro-Webbed here and then probably protected Crustle, because I think that would have, stalled out the Tailwinds, because I don't expect Sylveon to do too much damage to my Pokemon, and Incineroar definitely doesn't do anything they're not going to do it. But I decided to go for the Dynamax and Max Rock Ball, and Incineroar to guarantee the KO on the Incineroar. So I Dynamax the Crustle here, and Electro hits them both, so lowers them again. Incineroar takes a little damage, Sylveon takes a little damage. The damage is not that relevant. But Galvantula also outspeeds Sylveon even under Tailwind. And then they yawn, and I definitely was not thinking about yawn at all. I should have 100% thought about yawn. And if I would have done the move I was suggesting, which is Protect and Electro Web, and got the switch in to my Durant, I feel like I would have been in amazing shape, because Durant could have one-shot Sylveon, and then I could have killed Incineroar next turn. However, here I kill Incineroar, giving them a free switch into presumably Zapdos in the back, and my Crustle has a yawn on it, and I'm going to go to sleep next turn. So I ring in Durant, I'm expecting Zapdos in the back, and I feel really bad. I think the only way I get out of this is going to be a crit on my Max Rock Ball. So it ends up being Zapdos. And so here I'm thinking like, okay, maybe Zapdos targets into Crustle instead of Durant, and so maybe I can kill Sylveon with an Iron Head, and if they target Crustle, Crustle can do enough damage to kill Zapdos. So basically here I'm 100% hoping for a Max Rock Ball crit. If I can kill Zapdos with a crit, I feel like I should be able to kill it. They Dynamax Zapdos, which is expected. They go for Helping Hand, and then they go for this Max Flare. This is going to Durant, and Durant no way survives it. Nothing's going to be able to make that survive it. And so I'm definitely in terrible shape if I don't get a crit here, because Max Rock Ball does not one-shot Zapdos unless I get a Helping Hand boost on it. So I hit it, do a pretty good chunk of damage, but I definitely does not kill, which is definitely super sad. because I didn't get the crit. But I definitely, from this point, I'm like, okay, the game is pretty much over. So I'm mainly just thinking about what I should do here. So I'm still Dynamax. I still have the sand up. So there's a chance that if I get a one-turn wake up and I get a double protect off, I might be able to win. And so it doesn't matter here because I'm guaranteed to be asleep this turn. And they do, Helping Hand. And they do a max Rockfall. So we know that they have HM Power and Heat Wave on their Zapdos, which is relevant. And this does, a little bit over 50%, which is about what I'd expect. I get my first turn of sleep, and so from here, I'm like, okay, Zapdos looks like there's a reasonable chance that it might die to 2 more Sand Storm trips. And so with that, if I can wake up, get a Protect, and then Protect again, there's a chance that Zapdos dies from the sand, and then I can one-shot Sylveon without it being able to kill me. It's a very big task of both getting a lot of luck of getting the one turn sleep and getting a double protect. And even then, it's definitely not even 100% guaranteed I get it. But I don't wake up, and so I died. So that was our game 1. Did not go as well as I'd liked. I think my decision to just Dynamax in front of the Sylveon was my big mistake. I think that if I would have just protected, stall out Tailwind a turn, I think I could have gotten this game, but we learned a little bit from this match. So we lost one, so we needed 2 more wins to get this. So we go into match 2, and at match 2, I honestly have no idea what I want to do. It's definitely unclear what the best lead is. I am like the same lead. I can imagine winning with the same lead because I definitely feel like I almost had this. I'm debating between the Rubambi Crustle lead because Rubambi Crustle I think goes well into everything that doesn't include Fungus. And so I'm just thinking like Galvantula didn't do too much. And so that's a little bit annoying. I know I don't want Vikavolt because it just doesn't look good. They have a lot of special defensive tanks like Chansey, Sylveon, Latias. And so I know Vikavolt's not coming, but I'm like, okay, this is really tough. I went back and forth on which Pokemon to bring. It was not an easy decision. So you can see I'm just literally thinking, okay, maybe Pheromosa, Galvantula again, maybe Pheromosa and something else. I'm like, okay, let's do Pheromosa, Galvantula, and I'm accidentally misclicked. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. I need to do this. I only have 10 seconds left. And so I'm like, okay, let's do Rubambi, Crustle, Pheromosa, and Durant. And I'm like, okay, this should be fine. And so I'm like, this feels great. I feel good about this lead as long as they don't lead Fungus Zapdos. And so going into this, we see that they led with... Oh, yeah. Okay, so now we see that they led Chansey Fungus. And I'm like, okay, Fungus, I'm not happy to see Fungus because this is not a great lead against Fungus. But Chansey is not a scary threat right now. So I'm really surprised that they brought Chansey out as a lead. I think Chansey is a reasonable Pokemon to bring, but it definitely seems more of a back Pokemon after I finish my Dynamax, because right now I'm not scared of it in the slightest. I decided to not Dynamax, and I'm just going to double up into the Fungus spot because I believe this double up kills. Right now I'm just checking the calcs to make sure that this should almost guarantee KO. So they Rage Powder, which is also surprising. I was expecting a Spore or even a Protect, and a Protect would have got me really bad. But this Rage Powder, I think, ended up being pretty good for me, and they minimize, which I don't care about in the slightest because I have guaranteed guaranteed hit if I hit it with a Dynamax move. So my idea is like I'll just deal with it in a Dynamax or with my Dynamax later on. And so I'm very happy with this turn 1. Basically, they use one of their Pokemon in order to get a minimize in Chansey, which is not going to matter. So they bring the Cineroar in. The Intimidate would be relevant, but this is why I have White Herb on my Crustle, specifically so that Intimidate doesn't annoy it. And so from here, I'm like, okay, I don't really care about Chansey too much. So I think the correct thing to do is just give my Crustle some speed with Speed Swap. And just kill the Incineroar because this is a guaranteed one-hit KO on Max Rockfall, and we saw, and we know the item was not a Charty Berry from Game 1. And so this should be a guaranteed KO unless they're Focus Sash, because we technically didn't see their item Game 1. So we Dynamax our Crustle there, and Speed Swap. So we are now the fastest Pokemon on the field, and we will be the fastest Pokemon the entire game unless they get Tailwind up. And we get the kill on the Incineroar. And so now it's like, okay, so Chansey's not doing anything, we don't care about it, and they only have one Pokemon, and Helping Hand Dynamax move should kill anything on the left, even if it Dynamaxes. But they minimize Chansey again. And so I said, okay, here I'm like, I don't really know if I care about the Pokemon on the left. I think that my main goal is to kill this Chansey because I want to make sure it dies before I lose my Dynamax. Because a way in which they can squeak out, because I feel like I'm in amazing shape right now. One of the ways I think they can squeak out here is by, me not being able to hit it after my Dynamax is over. So I'm going Helping Hand, and I'm debating between Max Rockfall and Max Flutterby. I do Max Flutterby to lower the special attack from Latias, so that I don't have to, threaten like a damage that could, do some that could hurt me. And so I feel very good about this spot right now. We are up by 2 Pokemon, and their Chansey is not a big deal. This Helping Hand Max Flutterby is not going to kill Chansey unless it crits, but it's going to do enough damage where a follow-up Max Flutterby or follow-up Max Rockfall is going to kill it. So they Dynamax Latias here. And I do Helping Hand and Max Flutterby, which this, like I said, this should do, this is like 70-ish percentage, which, a little bit under that, but very good damage. And with the next turn, we should be able to kill it with our with another Dynamax move. I do Max Flare into my Crustle, which does almost no damage because Latias is at -1, and I have the Sand up, and so I'm feeling very good. I think this game is pretty much over. They Fire Punch in the sun, and this still does almost no damage. Chansey's attack is very low. I definitely think that maybe should just be like a Seismic Toss. So I decided to Speed Swap into the Latias to make sure that every Pokemon I back outspeed it in case somehow my Crustle dies here. And I decided to Max Rockfall to get the Sand back up to protect my Crustle from special attacks, and also it does a little bit more damage and can get a little chip on the Chansey in case it doesn't end up killing. The Max Rockfall ends up killing, which is really nice, and now I'm 100% sure that this game is over. I have 2 Pokemon on the back that can kill the Latias very easily, and both Durant and Pheromosa, and I have all 4 Pokemon left, and on top of that, Latias is also at -1 right now. And so now it's Speed Swap, which means all 4 of my Pokemon are going to outspeed the Latias too. And so I, debated between switching in, but I'm like, that's too risky. That's unnecessary. I can just, leave it in. I think the only way I can lose is by doing dumb switches or, dumb protects. And so my idea is like, I'm just doing max damage. So we Helping Hand, Rock Wrecker. This should do, quite a bit of damage. Definitely doesn't kill it, but, it should do a bunch of damage. So you Helping Hand, and it was Rock Wrecker, and this thing does a lot of damage. It honestly did more than I was expecting, but I'm pretty happy with that. And they end up killing the Rabombi, so I did not get the 4-0 here, but I feel great. I'm like, okay, it's not going to be Dynamax, so I might as well just do Durant, and because it has priority move in case
somehow Latias has some crazy priority move that can kill one of my Pokemon, and so I'm like, first impression plus 2 priority. We should be able to kill it before it has any chance of moving. So I 100% think I won the game here. So I'm just thinking, okay, what should I do game 2? Do I like this lead again? Should I do a different lead? Is there a way that I feel like they can punish it? And so I just go with the first impression. I reuse Rock Rex, so Crustle can't attack, and first impression is a kill. I had Expert Bell's first impression on Durant specifically to one-shot the Latias, and that's kind of one of the reasons why Durant's here is specifically for that, but also it helps with the Sylveon because Sylveon can be using. So now we have game 3, and I say, okay, that went amazing. Do I just run it back? I feel like running it back seems pretty reasonable, but also, like I said, if they do Fungus Zapdos, I feel like that lead I just led is really bad. But I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like they have a great way to deal with this lead other than that, and it doesn't seem like they want to lead Zapdos for some reason because they haven't read it in the first 2. So, like I said, if they lead Fungus Zapdos, I feel really bad about that lead, and that's why I'm thinking the Galvantula Pheromosa again, because that's very good against specifically the Fungus Zapdos lead. But I decided to end up going with just the same lead because I'm like, it went really well. I don't think they're going to do the same or the Fungus Zapdos lead. So I'm like, okay, we'll just do the same lead. It went well. Hopefully we don't get punished for this. And so I'm feeling pretty good as long as it's not exactly Fungus Zapdos. This lead is my best lead against Incineroar Zapdos, and this is and so I feel pretty good if they lead anything like that or anything with Incineroar, honestly. And so they end up leading, which I think is one of the better leads, Incineroar Zapdos, but this is exactly the lead that this matchup is designed for. So they get the Intimidate, but the White Herb prevents my Crustle from getting that -1, so I'm at neutral attack. And so from here, the general idea is like, okay, so I want to kill the Incineroar because if Incineroar has something like Parting Shot or Will-O-Wisp, it can be really annoying. So I'd like to kill the Incineroar, and so I'm just going to max Rockfall, and I'm going to Speed Swap. So I'm debating between killing the Zapdos. If they don't Dynamax Zapdos, it's a one-shot. But I decided to do that and just Speed Swap, because this is a nice, easy, guaranteed kill. And Incineroar, best case scenario, Incineroar fake outs because I have Shield Dust, which means I can't be flinched. And so what ends up happening is they don't Dynamax Zapdos, which is really relevant, and they fake out, which is really nice because went completely perfect because I am able to kill Incineroar. My Crustle is not going to take much damage, and I am able to get my speed up. So I'm outspeed Zapdos. So this went about perfect. If they would have Dynamax Zapdos and went like max Airstream, it could have been a little bit annoying, but as it is, this went great. And Ribombee even takes the Heat Wave. So they've ended up bringing Latias, and I'm like, okay, I don't care about Latias. I want to deal with the Zapdos, so I 100% want to just max Rockfall into the Zapdos. And the question is do I think Zapdos is going to Dynamax? Because if it Dynamaxes, I want to Helping Hand, because Helping Hand max Rockfall guarantees one-shot Zapdos. However, if it doesn't Dynamax, and Latias is Dynamaxes, I would like to be able to get a Speed Swap to make it slower, which can be really relevant. So I decide that I should go with the Helping Hand because it's too high of a risk. And so they end up Dynamaxing Zapdos, which is best case scenario for me because I decided to Helping Hand. And this is a guaranteed one-shot KO. And I think at this point pretty much the game is over. I feel like I'm in amazing shape. And so Crustle got first 2 KOs in the first 2 turns, and Ribombee did great work with Speed Swap and Helping Hand, and it dies. So yeah, I 100% feel like I'm in great shape. I just need to kind of sit here and be like, okay, I'm gonna make sure I don't mess up. And so I'm debating between Veramosa and Durant. Veramosa is or like so Durant's good, but if it takes a mystical fire, it could die. So I'm like, whatever. I'll just bring in Veramosa. They have Sylveon, which makes me feel pretty solid. And so at this point I'm doing damage calc to see how much max Flutterby does into Latias, and I did a miscalc here. I thought I did a calculation with it having a bug resist berry, which it doesn't, and so I said, oh, I have to double up on it, which was a misplay. I didn't actually do the double up. It's a guaranteed one shot with max Flutterby into Latias, so I should have Ice Beamed into Sylveon here. It ends up not mattering because I'm in amazing shape, but I accidentally did a miscalc when I was doing some damage calcs. And so I almost kill it with the Ice Beam. We activate the weakness policy, which isn't that big of a deal because we doubled up. And we end up killing the Latias, and the Sylveon now is at -1 special attack. And so now we're at 3v1, and I have Durant in the back, which is a guaranteed one-hit KO against the Sylveon, is guaranteed to outspeed it. The Yawn into the Cross Hill, which is not super relevant. What was I going to say? So from here, I'm like 100% like, okay, I don't want to do anything too risky. Yeah, I don't want to do anything too risky. I'm just going to do a 100% accurate move here and Ice Beam because I'm locked into it. I don't want to switch into Sylveon or into Durant because I might get hit with like a Mystical Fire and that could kill me and it would not be worth it. So we get this and the Stomping Tantrum, gets it very low, and now it should be in damage that. I get Mystical Fairy. I was expecting this to kill. It did not kill. Sylveon's attack is not great, especially at -1, and so I'm definitely surprised that it took that, but ended up going well. And then Cross goes to sleep. Like I said, I don't care. Even if both my Pokemon on the back are dead, I'm fine because Durant is still here, and I ended up getting here. So I felt pretty happy. This was a really close matchup. I feel my opponent did really well. I feel like I misplayed a little bit in game 1, and that ended up losing me the game. But good match, and I'm glad to finally get my first win.